Hello everyone, this is Mr. Underkoffler. Today we're going to be looking at the guided notes called Interpreting an Inequality Solution. All right, follow along with me here as I read this out loud. To interpret an inequality solution, we're going to write a sentence explaining what the answer means. So how are we going to do this? Well, here's my advice. First thing, start the sentence using words that state what the variable represents. Make sure you use words that represent the inequality symbol. For example, at least, at most. You could even have words like maximum or minimum, no less than, no more than. Finish the sentence using the number that was in your final answer. All right, let me go ahead and show you an example. Problem number 1. Follow along as I read this out loud. A certain minivan has a maximum carrying capacity of 1,100 pounds. If the luggage weighs 120 pounds, what is the maximum weight allowable for passengers? Okay, part A. Write and solve an inequality for this problem. I've told you guys that you always need to look for the word or multiple words that mean the inequality symbol. And this problem definitely said the word maximum. Maximum means that much or less, which is why we had less than or equal to. And since 1,100 comes immediately next in that sentence, then we keep the 1,100 to the right of the inequality symbol, just like it was to the right of the word maximum. All right, so this is stuff I've taught you before. Now, we are trying to find the maximum weight allowable for the passengers. Since that's what we're trying to find, I picked the variable W. And we knew that the luggage weighed 120 pounds, but we didn't know what the weight was going to be for the passengers. It makes sense that the weight of the luggage plus the weight of the passengers would then give you your total weight. So that's where the idea of addition came from. To solve, we're going to do the inverse of addition, which of course is subtraction, and we get that the maximum weight allowable for passengers is less than or equal to 980 pounds. Now, that's part A. That is nothing new. We've done that type of thing on a previous packet of guided notes. Now, here's the new part, part B. Interpret the solution. Now, remember, we want to start our sentence with words that state what the variable represents. You might recall, oops, going too far here, forgive me. You might recall that the variable stood for the maximum weight allowable for passengers. So you will notice I start my sentence using those same words. The maximum weight allowable for passengers. This is pretty simple here, ladies and gentlemen, if you use the same words that were described in the word problem that represent the variable. Now, what else do I need to make sure I have? I need to make sure I have a word or possibly multiple words that mean the inequality symbol. Well, I already have that with the word maximum. If I didn't have it here at the beginning of my sentence, then I would have to then use it coming up next. But since I already had it there, we're good to go. We got a word that means the inequality symbol, the less than or equal to symbol. And what's the other piece of advice? We want to finish the sentence by using the actual number that was in our final answer. Well, we already saw that number was 980 pounds. So I finished my sentence by saying is 980 pounds. Now, after you do that, after you write all this out, you should read the sentence to yourself. Make sure it sounds like a good, formulated sentence. The maximum weight allowable for passengers is 980 pounds. Sounds good. Now, do you have to use the same words that were in the original problem? Like, do you have to use maximum if the problem said maximum? Do you have to say the maximum weight allowable for passengers if the problem said what is the maximum weight allowable for passengers? The answer is no. If you want to be creative and not be so, going by the exact same words that were in the original word problem, then you could switch your sentence around a little bit. You could use the phrase like at most, which would also mean less than or equal to. You could say no more than, which would also mean less than or equal to. So there's different ways you could do this, but if you want to stick with keeping it simple, use the same words that are in the original problem. And again, the guide that I would use is up here at the top of your page to assist you. Okay, let's do a problem together that's not already done. Problem number 2. Take a look at it with me as I read it out loud. It says, Tony made a withdrawal of $75 from his bank account. The final balance was no less than $330. What was his bank account's original balance before he made the withdrawal? Okay. I like to always find the words that mean the inequality symbol, and that would be the phrase no less than. No less than means it cannot be less than, which is why it must be greater than or equal to. If you forget which one is greater than, which one is less than, remember the one that is less than looks like an L, kind of rotated, and the one that does not match an L, that's the one that's greater than. So since it's no less than, we need to be greater than or equal to. And since the $330 is to the immediate right of the words no less than, we are going to keep that number to the immediate right of the greater than or equal to symbol. Now, what's going to go here on the left? Well, I need a variable to represent the bank account's original balance before he made its withdrawal. So maybe I'll pick A for bank accounts. Maybe I'll pick B because we're talking about the original balance. So it's kind of up to you what letter you want to pick. We know that he's making a withdrawal of $75. Now, do you remember what withdrawals do to your bank account? They take the money out of your bank account, which is more money for you in your wallet, but it's less money in the bank account. So the idea of taking away would be subtracting it from the original balance. So there we go. We now have our algebraic inequality. Let's solve it. What's happening to the variable? Well, it's being subtracted by 75. The inverse is to add by 75. Let's quickly do this on both sides. That's going to give us A is greater than or equal to 405. I will put a little dollar sign here since we are talking about money in the bank account. So part A is done. We got our algebraic inequality and we solved it. Now time for part B. We want to interpret the solution. I recommend that you start with the words that state what the variable represents. Our variable, we chose A. Now, some of you might have chose B. And the reason we chose that letter is because we were trying to find what was his bank account's original balance before he made the withdrawal. So let's use those same type of words, except we're not going to use it in the form of a question. So I'm not going to start by saying what was. I'm going to create this in the way that I'm making a statement. So A is the bank account's original balance. So let's go ahead and start by saying Tony's bank account's original balance was. Go ahead and start writing that down. By the way, do I have to say Tony? No, I could have used the pronoun his. Not a big deal. I could have just said the bank account's original balance. That would have been fine as well. So different slight little variations on how you can word the beginning of your sentence, but you want to make sure you're starting with words that represent what the variable is. Okay, we also want to make sure that we have words that mean the inequality symbol. And we can work smarter, not harder, and use the same words or phrase that was in the original problem that meant our inequality symbol. And if you recall, that was the phrase no less than. So why don't we go ahead and use those same words right here? No less than. So Tony's bank account's original balance was no less than. And then we're going to finish our sentence using the number that was in our final answer. So that's pretty simple. That's the $405. So let's go ahead and finish our sentence with $405. And let's read this, make sure this sounds logical. Tony's bank account's original balance was no less than $405. Sounds good to me. Now, if we wanted to be creative, we could. We don't have to say Tony. We don't even have to say bank account. We could just say the original balance in his account. So there's different ways you could word this. If you don't want to say the phrase no less than, you could say minimum of $405. You could say at least $405. There's many different words you can use that would mean the greater than or equal to symbol. So I don't recommend doing it the creative way. I would use the words that are found in the original problem, so that way you can work smarter, not harder. And with that in mind, I would like for you to try number 3 on your own. So hit pause right now, do number 3 on your own, and then hit play when you're ready to see how you did. Okay, did you already do problem number 3? If you did not, hit pause now, because you got to try this on your own before you see me going over it, which is what I'm going to do right now. At most $400. At most means that's the most it could be, therefore it could be less than or equal to. The 400 should be on the right. If you put it on the left, you're doing it the wrong way. Since it was to the right of the words at most, it needs to be the right of the inequality symbol. Okay, now we are specifically talking about buying tickets. So we don't know the number of tickets. How many tickets? So I would probably pick T as my variable. But we're specifically talking about a heavy metal concert. So with that in mind, I need to use $25 for the heavy metal concert. And that is the price per ticket. Now let's think about this. We talked about the word per ever since we talked about proportional relationships way back when we did that unit. Per ticket means times the ticket. So it's $25 times the number of tickets, which I don't know what that is. I called it T. If you're going to use T, put a little curl at the bottom of it so that way it doesn't accidentally look like a plus sign. Okay, if you had this set up wrong, feel free to hit pause now and fix whatever you got to fix, because I'm going to start solving it. Here we go. Inverse of multiplying is dividing, and that's going to give me T is less than or equal to 16 tickets. Okay, so that's what we got for part A. Part B, we need to interpret this solution. Now, if you already messed up part A and needed to fix it, then you might need to hit pause again and fix your part B if needed. Okay, here we go. I want to start my sentence using the words that the variable represents. The variable represented the number of tickets that Bethany, that's who the she was, can purchase. Now, I don't want to word this in the form of a question, so I'm not going to say how many tickets can she purchase. I want to make it a statement, something like Bethany can purchase, and then I need to use words that mean the inequality symbol. I'm going to stick with the words at most because that's what was in the original problem. So Bethany can purchase at most. And then what do we got here? She can purchase at most 16 tickets. Now, I'm going to be specific and say that I'm talking about 16 heavy metal tickets. And yes, you probably should be specific about that as well, because that is the type of concert Bethany's going to, not the other choices of genres of music. So there you go. There's a sentence. Now, does yours have to look word for word the same as mine? The answer is no, as long as it is having the key pieces. Does it have words that represent what the variable is? Does it have words that mean the inequality symbol? Does it somehow finish talking about 16 heavy metal tickets? If you have those 3 elements and your sentence sounds logical when you read it to yourself, then you are good to go. All right, I'm going to stop the video here. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.